Welcome to the Spiritually Ignited Paradox Literature Language of the Heart Speaker Gathering. We invited Terry M. from Arizona and Pat O. from California to share a message of depth and weight from the heart on the topic, Half Measures Availed Us Nothing. You have 60 minutes, guys, so the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm Terry and I'm an addict. It's so good to be here with all of you. Me and Pat are going to have some fun. We're going to invite our higher power into this, but I needed to kick this off by telling you that right now I am in the middle of the answer to my prayers. When I was newly sober, and there weren't a lot of Cocaine Anonymous meetings in my area, and I lived on speaker meetings. I would listen to them all the time. And that's what I was able to do to keep the madness at bay. And I felt like I was under siege all the time. And I listened to this one speaker, and her name was Patty O. And this woman would make you laugh and she would make you cry. Now, here I am, 35 years later, doing a share with her son. I don't even know if you were born then. I mean, this is a long time ago, right? So the power of God has been at work in my life for a very, very long time. And so I am so grateful to kick it over to my dear friend, Pat, to begin our share on this important half measures avails us nothing topic. Go for it, Pat.
I appreciate it, Terry. My name's Pat, and I'm an addict. Hey, Pat, and grateful to be sober, grateful to be here. Glad I got my coffee, got the coffee on deck. My cup says, doing my best, and it's a good reminder. And I was thinking about doing my best and Joey, thanks for asking us, man. And Terry, I just love and I just appreciate and love you, and I look up to you, and you're a hero. And I thought, man, I don't know if I don't know if I have it in me. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe we should send Ralph up there. You know what I mean? Like you got to throw me in but I am honored. I'm seriously honored. I really try to do this thing one day at a time. Because I just keep saying yes to the fellowship, and I have so many things on my calendar, and it's beautiful and it's loving. I go one day at a time, and I got in, I looked at the 24 hours ahead, and I'm like, oh, got a Zoom. And then and so I get into prayer and meditation, and then I get some text from Terry. He's like, hey, we're doing this together, and we kind of chopped it up a little bit of text, and then the topic is half measures avail us nothing. And I thought, man, who picked that topic? And what are they trying to say? You know what I'm saying? And then I got resentful at Joey. I thought, dang, he threw us under the bus. And then the ego kicks in. I'm like, I ain't half measures. I'm all in. I've been all in since the beginning. And so I thought, well, we better get into some meditation and get centered to what's really going on here. And half measures avail us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. And that's what we're talking about, straight out of the big book, page 59. And I love the big book. I love, love, love the big book. I'm an enthusiast, I think is the right word, and for the big book. And so here we are. And I thought, man, what was the turning point? What was the turning point for Pato? Right? Like I had a sponsor that was like, he was a grinder, you know what I'm saying? He was like, he was like, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. We're going to do these meetings. And we were at, yeah, I don't know, 3 meetings a day. And we were being a service, and we were reading the book, and we were running down a detox. And I thought it was about action. I thought I was an action guy. I thought half measures means you're half doing half the deal, and so I've always been busy like that. And I thought, man, when was the turning point? Sure, the turning point for me was on October 23rd, 2002, for sure. For sure. That was a turning point. I was like, man, crack cocaine got me in this place. Well, I'll just call it what it is. I was in a motel prostituting myself for one more hit of crack cocaine. Like that's what happens to this addict when he smokes crack. You know what I mean? It ain't no fun for me. That was a turning point. I was sitting there came to, you know what I mean? I was like, whoa, I could no longer see my life with alcohol and drugs, and I couldn't see it without it. And I was at a turning point. I was either gonna kill myself, and what happened was the thought of tequila came across my mind. I drank, and I blacked out for 3 days, and I came to, and I was at a turning point again, right? And I couldn't deny that moment, right? 3 days before was the same thing, but that moment it was like God was like, "You're going in a different direction." And literally, like the power moved me in a direction where I called my mom, asked for help, and I got sent to the old detox, Charlie Street, you know, and that guy was armed with facts about this book, got me busy. But and thank God, like if you're new, welcome to Cocaine Anonymous. What a beautiful thing we're sitting in, huh? And we're sitting in Zoom all over the world, you know, like this is cool, you know. But it was about one drug addict, alcoholic working with another, and I got busy. And so I think about what was the other turning point I had, because half measures, right, like was more about me doing things my way, right? Like you know, the program is your way. The first principle of step one is honesty. Well, I wasn't 100% honest when I did my inventory. You know what I mean? My honesty was well, I I just kind of put my toe in the water to see my sponsor's reaction. Now I told you the secret right now. Just told it to you. But what I told my sponsor, I said I told him some like you know, some sex conduct that was, yeah, kind of in that area, but not really in that area. And his reaction was like, you know what I mean? He was like, he looked, and it was my perception of what his reaction was, right? I had this old idea that men always fail me. You know what I'm saying? Men always fail me. My father failed me. Every mentor failed me. Every spiritual teacher, every coach, every man failed me. And I had this old idea that said men are failing you. So when I put my toe in the fifth step and told him that little thing, his reaction, I perceived that he was judgmental. He was going to throw me away. He didn't like me. He thought I was something, right? And so I immediately shut off. And that guy, he about well, I was a year sober, and I had another guy he sponsored came up to me and said, "Hey, I heard you had experience doing this." And to me, he had crossed the line of trust, right? And he had told my secret to another human being, which it's all perception, right? Like if you're new, it's perception. My perception was that. Right now, I've done enough work to know, like, if he would have said, "Hey, I got this guy that has some experience you have, would you be willing to talk?" I'd be, yeah, I would say yes or no. But what happened was I shut off the sponsorship, right? I had a secret. I shut off the sponsorship, and I had another secret that, well, it wasn't really a secret because it was out loud. It was like, I don't believe in God. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't believe in God. Like I came to believe in AA. Like I came to believe in CA. I came to believe in the fellowship. I came to believe in the actions we take. I came to believe in the service, but I didn't believe in God, right? But I couldn't really tell you that. I wasn't like just like, "Hey, I don't believe in God," because he get pinned in the corner at a meeting. You know what I mean? You don't believe in God, you better believe in God, you know? And so I kind of just bobbed and weaved that topic. You know what I mean? I was like, "Hey, yeah, yeah." And I was doing second steps, and I was doing third steps with guys. I worked with guys that had deep, profound relationships with God and their religion, and they taught me a lot along the way. But I was half measuring. I wasn't all the way in the boat. You know what I mean? I was, and I didn't even realize it. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was all in. Right? They told me, they said, you don't have to believe in God, you just have to believe you're not God, you know, which that's a good starting point, you know, to believe that I'm not God, right? That I'm not in control. But and that's good in theory, but reality was I was trying to control every area of my life, right? And in this half measures avail us nothing. So I flipped to the turning point in my life, right? The turning point in my life, I was 8 years sober, right? I was 8 years sober. You know, if we turn to page 52 in that book, it says we were having trouble with personal relationships, check mark, right? Every relationship in my life was out of whack. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't honest in work relationships. I wasn't honest in romantic relationships. I wasn't honest in my friendship relationships. Like, I had at my sponsor one time, he said to me, he said, I said, I only lie in certain areas of my life, not all of them. And you know what he said? He goes, "Oh, so you're honest 90% of your life and 10% you're not." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're still a liar," And I was like, "Dang, that's harsh." But it's true, right? Couldn't control our emotional natures. Yes, check mark. Prey to misery and depression. Check mark. We couldn't make a living. Check mark. We had a feeling of uselessness. Check mark. Right? And I was sponsoring a ton of guys. I was speaking. I was being a service at the detox. Like I was busy. But right, I felt useless. I didn't feel full. I felt right. We were full of fear. Check mark. We were unhappy. We couldn't be a real help to other people. And he said, I want you to add in that paragraph. He said, I bet you have an insane sex life. And I was like, how'd you know? You know what I mean? How'd you know? And so my turning point was 8 years sober, and what I thought was one more broken relationship, right? One more, the old idea that I'm not lovable, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not worth anything in this world. I'm just, right? Sober guy, busy guy, active guy. I was at a turning point in my life, and I thought that I thought I was all in the boat, right? I thought I was all in. I thought I was in the service work, I was amongst a fellowship, and I was in recovery because I was sponsoring guys and I was taking guys through the book, and I said some prayers, you know what I mean? Like, God, man, if there is a God, please, you know what I mean? Like desperate prayers of like, I'm really struggling with spiritual life. Like I'm really struggling with connection. Like I need some kind of guidance, and I need some kind of light because I want to die. Right. I'm suicidal. I don't understand what's going on. Right. But I can't go into the meetings, you know what I mean? And tell you that I feel like killing myself. I can't go into meetings and say, "Hey, you know what?" Right? I don't trust another man in my life to be able to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm dying, man, and I don't know like how to get out of this, man. I can't tell another man really what's going on in my life. I can't tell him that I'm failing in all my relationships. I can't tell him another man because of I don't trust. My perception is you're gonna hurt me." Right? My perception is you're going to throw me away. My perception is that I'm not good enough, right? And I don't know that this is half measures. I don't know that I haven't let go of these old ideas. I don't even know these are old ideas, right? No one ever told me what the old ideas were. They said here, I did an inventory, said here's a list of character defects. You know what I'm saying? That made me feel real good. Get a list like 100 character defects. Yeah, you're a real loser. Pray and ask God to remove them. Do the opposite actions. You know what I mean? Pull one out of a hat every day and work on that character defect. You ever work on a character defect? Oh man, they don't want you to kill yourself. And so I got these old ideas that are driving, right? This old idea that I'm not worth being loved is driven by what kind of fear, right? To look at this fear, which is then generating me to act out, right? And I don't even understand what's going on. And I'm going to kill myself. And I'm driving 100 miles an hour down the road, going to barrel my car in oncoming traffic. And God used this man. Man, I had no idea. Had no idea that God was using this man, Jonathan C., from my Tuesday night meeting. No idea. He had been talking about untreated alcoholism week after week after week. And I thought, this guy won't shut up about this. I didn't understand. I didn't know that the storytelling that you tell your story was touching the spirit within inside of me that was shifting. There was a transformation starting to happen, though I couldn't see it. And the turning point, I'm going to barrel my car, and this voice says, "Call that guy Jonathan from your Tuesday night meeting before you kill yourself." I picked up the phone. I called him. He answered in one ring, and he said, "Meet me at Denny's. Meet me at Denny's." And I met him at Denny's, crying. I'm going to kill myself. And he said this. He said to me, "At 17 years, clean and sober, I sat on the end of my bed with the revolver in my mouth going to kill myself." He said, reached out to a man by the name of Luther Wood. And Luther Wood reached out to a man by the name of Clint Hodges. Clint Hodges reached out to a man by the name of Don Pritz. For the first time in my life, I had heard that there was other men that had the same thing internally that I was going through. And I had hope. Had hope. Hadn't had hope in a long time. I had hope. And my 15 minutes is up, Terry. Your turn, brother.
Wow. Thank you so much. So, half measures availed us nothing. I was so lost in your share, brother. Our idea of switching it back and forth may have been the worst idea we ever had, because I was right there with you in every word. So, the spirit that moves through us, the contradictions of recovery, the half measures avail us nothing. But just before it says half measures availed us nothing, it says, if you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. So my whole life is a paradox. My whole life is a ball of confusion. I'm number 9 out of 10 kids. I was tiebreaker Terry. There were 4 girls, 4 boys, and then I was born. And my dad loaded up all 8 of the kids in the station wagon and drove them to San Fernando Valley Hospital, where my mom held me up to the window. And even from way down in the parking lot, it was no doubt that was a boy. And tiebreaker Terry was born. 5 boys, 4 girls. And then I got a little brother. And life was wonderful. Like, everything was great. I'm an athlete, play any sport. I can hurdle, I can jump, I can fly. I love climbing shit. I love jumping over everything that moves. Me and my little brother would run around and we go jumping partners to the end, and we would just hurdle over everything. We loved running and jumping so much, we would call the police on ourselves just to get a good chase going. And then my mom got sick with cancer when I was 11 and got really sick. And over those next couple of years, I didn't know what to do with my feelings. And the ice cream man in my neighborhood started dealing dope. And my brothers and sisters were all getting high. And the next thing you know, I'm coping with my feelings in a really unhealthy way. I did not know that I was suffering from trauma. I didn't know it. I was working at the Crest Theater in Monrovia, California, at Ivy and Foothill, when my sister pulled up one day, hysterical, and she threw me and my little brother in her car. And she started racing up Ivy Street to our house that I grew up in, 376 North Ivy. And she's flooring it. And she's blowing through stop signs and she's crying hysterically. And we pull up in front of my house and there's a hearse backed into my driveway. And my little brother made this sound. Fuck. I felt that sound just now through every fiber of my being. Holding my little brother to try to help him to like, fuck. And then we go in and they go, kiss your mother goodbye. Fuck, that's a dead body. What? More drugs, more alcohol, more life. Next thing you know, all the house is sold. The brothers and sisters are gone. All of my life has changed. I'm now instead of being in a house with my whole family, it's me and my dad. He shipped my little brother to Arizona. There's just me and my pops, a virtual stranger to me in a 2-bedroom apartment. My dad comes to me one day. I'm 16. All the kids in my neighborhood have been talking about fucking and all the shit they're doing sexually, you know, and I'm, oh yeah, I'm doing that too. But I hadn't even hit puberty yet. I was a late bloomer. And my dad sits there across from me and he says, son, I got a question for you. Are you a virgin? And my first thought was, is he hitting on me? It's like scared me, right? And fuck, what a horrible, and I didn't know. What do I tell him? The truth? The lie? What? I've been lying to all my friends. But I decided to tell my dad the truth. And I said, yeah, Dad, I'm a virgin. And he looked at me and he said, well, son, that could be a good thing or that could be a bad thing. I'm glad we had this discussion. And he got up and he walked into his room and he closed the door. Fuck. Next thing you know, I'm in court for multiple burglaries. You know, next thing you know, I'm in the military. Next thing you know, I'm in Germany and I'm shooting dope and they're shipping all the junkies out of Southeast Asia, out of Vietnam, and they don't know what to do with all the junkies, so they send them where I was stationed. And you look up at my barracks and you could see the junkie rooms. They were the ones with the vomit stains on the outside of the building. And the next thing you know, I got a needle in my arm. And that needle leads me to a train station in Stuttgart, Germany in the middle of the night. Missed the last train back to my barracks. And the only liquid available to melt my dope was out of a shit and piss-filled toilet bowl in a public train station in a city of a couple 100,000 people. And I looked at that mountain of turd and that piss moat, and I drew that liquid up because I needed the dope. I was, like it says in our beautiful big book, I'm not using for effect. I am using to try to satisfy a mental obsession and a craving beyond my effective mental defense. That's going to any lengths, isn't it? I'm a go to any lengths motherfucker. Maybe we should start a meeting, go to any lengths motherfucker, because I would. One time, the boogeyman was after me and I'm shooting cocaine. And I punched a hole in the wall and I dropped the rig down in the wall. And when they retreated, I pulled my syringe out and I filled it up with the last of my cocaine. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't find the needle. There's no needle. What do? I got a rig full of dope and I need to do it, but no way to inject it. So I start thinking, what do? Squirt it in my mouth? No. Save it till tomorrow? Nobody on these Zooms saves it till tomorrow. And then I hear that voice, just shove it up your ass. I go, ain't nothing going in my ass. It's not going in my ass. And then I hear this voice say, just shoot up without a needle. Good idea. So I tied off and I went, bam. Now that shit's abnormal. I didn't know it was abnormal. To me, that was my life. My whole life has been abnormal. My whole life has been trauma upon trauma upon trauma buried. And then I get 12-stepped. And my life starts to change. And I'm so glad you talked about the sacredness of the story, Pat, because I can tell my story all I want, but it's my job to tell it. I had a sponsor get all of us together, and it was during the Robert Bly days of the early recovery in the 90s. You know, bang the drums, oh man, beat drums, you know, and all that shit, Iron John and all that stuff, right? So he was into that. So he brings all his sponsees, we're into that. So we're sitting around a campfire and he says, all right, I want all of you to share something out of your inventory. Because as you learn to share like that, you get free. So men told stories and I told one. I told one that is so hard. I can't imagine I'm going to say it now, but I am. But what I tried to do when I was like this 12-year-old boy trying to figure out what to do with this dick that was getting hard from time to time. Sorry, ladies that are on here, but fuck, this shit's real. And I tried to stick that dick in the neighbor's dog. And I swore I would never say that to a soul. What a fucking terrible thing to do, right? That was one of the ghosts that would come up in my mind, and then slam some more dope, drink some more liquor, beat somebody's ass, go get some sex, do something to fix how I feel. That's how I roll. So I shared that story with my sponsor at his direction. About a month later, I'm at work. Now think about this. I'm in my first few months of sobriety. Thank God I had messages flowing through my mind, because by now I'm listening to Ralph, and I'm listening to Ken Cross, and I'm listening to Patty and Clint Hodges and Don Pritz and all those other people you mentioned. I've got another message playing in my head. I'm at work. I'm starving. I can't sell anything. Nobody will buy from me. My marriage is on the rocks. I'm a newcomer. We're broke. We're penniless. I hear Terry Murphy, line one. I go over, I pick up line one. Hi, this is Terry. And I hear, roof, 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 roof. Now that shit, you hear my dogs in the background? That was perfect timing, right? But fuck, tell me the spirit isn't alive in the land of Zoom. Thank you. Those are my puppies joining in on the choir. It's funny today because I'm telling it. But that day I thought, should I kill myself? Should I go get some fucking dope? Because everybody I work with is holding. But I didn't. I just kept it to myself. And I went to a meeting, and at that meeting I said, somebody really violated my trust. And they said, yeah, well, in the big book, it tells you what to do to find someone that you can trust, not a group of folks, right? So I've always been sacred in that. I do a lot of group step work stuff, but when it comes to the inventory process, man, that's between you and someone you trust. However, I just shared a portion of mine and Pat did his. So I guess today with 34 years, I'm more of an open book where the shame doesn't drive or dominate me. And I understand the line in the book where we will see how our experience can benefit others. I never shared that story for the first 25 years of my recovery. And I shared it at a retreat. And after that men's retreat, there were 35 men at that retreat. I got 3 calls that week, men asking to come over to my house, and they sat on the porch and they told me their tale of the same basic story wrapped in their own pain and shame. And together we heal. What is it about this healing properties of Cocaine Anonymous? I'm Mr. Have Measures. I would have measure shit all the time. And then I discovered here that I don't need to do that anymore. I don't have to try to be anybody other than me. And because of the freedom I found from these steps, I've learned how to actually love the man in the mirror, where the ghost of my past that would come up, those memories of what you did, or the dishonesties, or the time I was smoking crack and the people I was with were such scoundrels. I knew if I left my car to take the shit I had to take, that they would steal the car or the dope. So I shit in my fucking pants. I'm a 34-year-old husband, father of 2. My kids go to Catholic school, and I'm shitting in my britches because I don't want to miss my hit. Right? And then I started sponsoring men. And the first man I ever sponsored had the same stories, filled with shame and ghosts that come up out of the night like demons to try to pull you back into the broken past. And he said, Terry, I got to share something with you. I made up a prayer, and this prayer has is cleaning up my broken life. It's cleaning up my past. I want to give it to you as a gift for sponsoring me. And I said, what's the prayer, bro? What's the prayer? Because I'm haunted. A song could bring a bad feeling up, a memory, a place, a motels. Oh my God, a life filled with places and people and memories, so many of them so painful. And here was the prayer he gave me. He said, whenever I encounter one of those dark memories, I get quiet and I say, God, please give me back that part of my soul that I left there that day. I started saying that prayer. And I said that prayer to that campfire that caused me so much pain and shame. And I said it when I drove by that spot where I shit my pants. And I've said it every time a song came up that brought up a nasty memory of the past. And because of that, I've been able to clean up my life. And today, those things are just memories. Back to you, Brother Pat.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Terry. And my phone's blowing up with texts. Like, what the heck? And I'm just thinking, how am I gonna supposed to follow this? You know what I mean? And what comes to me, I said a prayer. I'm like, God, please, please just use me now because I'm feeling insecure and not good enough. And what came through to the heart was from the darkest of places comes the brightest of lights. You know what I mean? And I'm like, man. Woo! Only in Cocaine Anonymous do we get to hear the truth that'll set me free. You know what I mean? The truth that'll set me free. And I'm sitting here with Terry and I'm like, man, I'm free today, right? I'm free from the bondage of self, right? The book talks about, right? I'm free from the bondage of self. I no longer am trapped in isolation and loneliness of the mind because I'm able to be free with you. I'm able to be honest with you. I'm able to tell you the truth, you know? And the truth will set me free. And the truth, I sit here today just blown away with love and gratitude for Cocaine Anonymous. Blown away by the members sitting in this meeting tonight, today, wherever we are, that I look up to, heroes of mine. Guys I sponsor are here, friends are here. I'm filled with so much love. And I believe it started that day when I was with that guy and that force with my sponsor at the time. And I did that 4-step and I told him the truth about me. And there was no reaction on his face. I think my perception had changed. My perception of you had changed. My perception of God had changed. I had come to find out that God for me God was love, right? That God was this intuitive thought that I had my whole life, that still quiet voice. My sponsor asked me if the book says deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. He said, where is God within you? And I got to examine, Pato. I got to examine where that still small voice was my whole life. The still small voice was right here in my heart, man. It was right here. He said, you no longer need to search outside of self. You just go within. And I remember sitting there telling him that deep, dark secret, and he didn't look at me with any disgust or any, and he looked at me and he said, you know what, kid? He said, I love you, kid. He said, I love you. I said, what? Well, hey, that old idea wanted to come that I'm not worth being loved and I'm not good enough at being loved. And how could you love me for these things I just told you that I had done? And he said, I love you like a son. And he gave me a hug. He kissed me on the forehead and he said, why don't you keep reading? And I started reading, and I got done with the inventory and I look up and he's like golfing in his room, in the room we were in. And he was like practicing his golf swing, dude. And I was like, what? Like, dude, this is like serious stuff. You know what I mean? And you're not even listening. He's just golfing, swing. He's practicing his swing and I'm looking at him and that old idea came and the perception shifted like that. And I came intuitively was like, man, all that stuff you've been holding on to isn't really that big of a deal here in Cocaine Anonymous. And the thought that came was from that the deepest past was going to become our greatest asset right? That God was going to use me, right, to help others. And it was a shift in perception like that. And I felt freedom. I felt free, you know. And I got in that 7-step prayer and I said, my creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, the good and the bad. Leave me with what I need to be of love and service to you and my fellows. And I had no idea what that prayer was going to do. I had no idea. And I said, amen. And he said, you remember, we say amen at the end of the 7-step prayer because we were in a state of prayer and grace between 3 and 7. And I had realized that God had carried me through that darkest time of suicide. And I was suicidal, man. I was suicidal for a year and a half, want to kill myself going through this process because I couldn't make amends to my dad. Right? I had made a decision. I had made a personal decision with God that I was going to walk through these 12 steps and get to the other side so I can help God's kids. And I couldn't make the amends. I remember being about going to kill myself. I had a guy named Chris save my life. I went home. I made amends to my dad. It was 3 a.m. It was in the darkest hour, man. I was sitting there just screaming and yelling at God. F you, God. I hate you, God. Why, God? And out the words to a man I never met. I never met my dad. My mom got pregnant in a blackout. But where had I been selfish and self-centered every area of my life? If I only had a dad, that old idea of not being worthy, not being loved. If I only had a dad, know how to be a friend to you. If I only had a dad, know how to be a boyfriend and know how to show up for life. I had no guidance in my life, man. I blamed him for every situation, every area of my life. And I remember making the amends on my apartment floor, and it was like the victim was pulled out, and the power of God, which was love, went deep down within. Deep down within. And I got up off the floor and I went to my bed and I fell asleep just like that. And the thought of suicide went away just like that. And the thought of you dug in deep. And I started to have this relationship with God. It wasn't something here, it was a relationship internal. And I started trying to do some meditation, and I couldn't get into any meditation because I'm a thinker, you know what I'm saying? I go get the yoga pants, you know what I'm saying? And I go get the incense, and I go get the right meditation pillow, and somebody says, oh yeah, I journal. And so I had to find the right journal book and the right pen, you know what I'm saying? Well, this is 15 years of me trying to figure out meditation, you know what I'm saying? And because I got to look good to meditate by myself in my bedroom, you know what I'm saying? And so what happened was I call him the Buddha, the Phoenix Buddha, Eric O. And he said, Pat, he said, well, what's your meditation like? Look, I said, man, I can't meditate. I think too much, you know? And he said, oh yeah, me too. And I thought the Buddha floated around. I didn't know he thought. And I said, man, I got ADD. I got all these. He said, it sounds like you got excuses, you know? And he said, I go, how do you meditate? He said, well, you just breathe in, discontinue thought. When a thought comes, discontinue thought. Kind of focus on being in the present moment. Okay, I'm sitting on this chair. I got my yoga pants on. I got the incense burning. I'm feeling safe right now. And then refocus on breath. And so I started doing that. I started doing it, man. Pretty soon I was getting up to 2 minutes, and I was getting up to 5 minutes. Pretty soon I was on 10 minutes, and then I got mad that I wasn't floating yet. You know, I call the Buddha. I go, hey, I'm not floating yet, you know? And he goes, you're human. We're never going to fly. I was like, oh yeah, you know? And then COVID hit. Remember when COVID hit? I was scared. I was so scared. I thought we were gonna all die. I went shopping. I looked for the toilet paper. You guys all bought it. I was mad. Caught another resentment. You got the toilet paper. I didn't get it. You know. And but I'm meditating still. But I have this mind that's telling me I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. And then all of a sudden it said discontinue thought. Focus on breath. Whoa, where'd that come from? Man, I looked around the room. I got into meditation, and then all of a sudden, man, remember all the Zooms came about and all the conferences and meetings that started, and all these service ideas came to mind, and I started to think I could be a service, and I started setting up Zooms and getting the old timers plugged in, and I worked through that fear. man, I was in the game, dude. I was meditation guy. I was like, oh, and then I got afraid again because I'm a human being, you know, a human being having a spiritual experience, and I got afraid again. And all of a sudden it said discontinued thought, focus on breath. Ooh, shit, where'd that come from, man? So I got into some meditation, man, and all of a sudden I realized, I looked back my whole sobriety. I went from Skid Row, addict on Skid Row, no high school education, boom, 6 figures, fired, started a company, pushed out of that partnership. The day my mom died, the attorney ripped me off for the settlement. And in meditation, I'm realizing that God had been building this character up until this point where I sat on that meditation floor. I had come to find out that God was love for me. And that I, in that moment, had a responsibility to be the love and the light in the world that God created this human being to be. And I got off the floor and I went into the world to go be that, man. And I never looked back. I never looked back. And what happened was the book says we are undisciplined. We're going to allow God discipline us in the simple way we've just outlined. And I became I guess a formal meditator. It's the first time I said that out loud. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of weird. I'm a formal, but I want to thank Eric O for that. But what happened was the relationship with God started to dig deep. And my mom got me ancestry DNA, and I came to find my dad right when my mom died. You know what I'm saying? And I came to find out that my mom died. I'm sharing this for the first time, and this is for you, Ralph. And so what happened was I found my dad, and I saw a medium when my mom died, and my mom was there, my dad was there, and rest in peace, TJ Bryant was there. You know what I'm saying? He was there, and he was a little shenanigans, and the medium was telling me, and my dad was there, and I got scared, man. I bounced. I was like, dude, I'm dipping, dude. I can't deal. It's too much. And so I'm at work, and this lady, she does sound bowls. You guys know what those are? I don't know what they are. They woo and make these noises, but I went to go meet her, and I gave her a hug, and she left, and I left, or she left, and she came back 20 minutes later. She goes, Pat, I need to talk to you. I go, what's up? She's like, there was a female spirit between me and you when I hugged you on that right side. And I was like, oh my God, that's my mom. You know what I'm saying? And she had no idea my mom died. And she said, did you have a mom that died? I said, yeah. She said, she's bugging me to talk to you. And I was like, I'm open to it. And I set up a day to do it. And then and it got canceled. And then she came over last week and she did some Reiki. I don't know what Reiki is, but I'm open-minded, because CA taught me to be open-minded. So I'm in the thing, and she's doing whatever. And I got these eye pillows on. I think it's all weird. And I feel this, like what would be a tornado, a tidal wave, and an earthquake, all from here to my hip bone. It's like, and I'm like, oh my God. And all of a sudden, my mom and my dad popped up. And I was like, whoa. And I had this intuitive thought that said, you need to forgive your parents. Ooh. And all of a sudden, I had the pillows on, so it's dark, but all of a sudden, the room lit up light. And I was like, and I exhaled, discontinued thought, focus on breath. Man, I was in the moment, dude. I was present. She got done, and she said, all right. She said, we started talking to me. She said, your mom is right here. You guys don't know where it is in my house. My friend TJ Bryant's right here. And she said, your dad is in the corner over here. And she said, your dad is full of remorse. Your dad's telling me that he wishes he was here for you and in a different way than he was able to be in your life. Just like that, I started to cry, and I said, can I give my dad a hug? Can I tell my dad that I forgive him? And she explained to me the spiritual world, blah, blah. So you could talk to him anytime. But what happened for me was there was a level of forgiveness, deep, profound, right? Deeper than the physical world that we are in the spiritual world. But I have to be able to access that spiritual world, and that access comes from meditation, right? shortchange myself, man. Shortchange myself, and the half measures avail me nothing, right? If I'm not open-minded to new ideas and new concepts, I can't tap in spiritually, right? I'm still stuck in the physical world about me, about me, about me, about me. And it's no longer about me. It's about you and it's about God. And how can I get closer to God and how can I get closer to you? And I believe that meditation allows the heart to open, allows the mind to shut down for the heart to open to allow you in. I sat in meditation this morning and I just felt honored to be able to sit with Terry Murphy and do a 15, 15, 15. Man, a moment in my life that I will cherish for a lifetime. I love you, Terry, and my 15 minutes is up.
Wow. This is so wonderful being here with all of you, right? So, more is revealed, and I'm a seeker. And thank you for sharing that beautiful story, right? Because you made me realize. So this is my dad died in 1989. I got sober in 91. My mom died in 1971, 20 years before. I had wounds that I didn't even know existed, that were so deep down inside me that I was at a retreat 10 years sober when I first encountered a wound between me and my mother. I had thought my mom's last words to me before she died were, "Get out of here, you make me sick." That's a terrible thing to go through life feeling. The beginning of the healing started in that retreat. And over the next 10 years, I had 3 encounters with my mother that were every bit as real as everything I'm experiencing with all of you right here, right now. And one of those experiences, I was 50 years of age. So that was 35 years after my mother's death when I heard her last words, and they came as a result of meditation. And I was meditating, and I was at my mother's bedside just before she died. And the cancer had broken off, and she could no longer speak. She would just make sounds. And I would come home from school, and I would put vitamins in this like oatmeal or whatever, and I would feed her with the eyedropper. And I'm trying to feed my mom, and she's going, mm-mm. And I start getting upset because if she doesn't eat, she's going to die. I'm not ready for that. I don't even know I got this wound. And I said to my mom, I go, "What, Mom, what?" And she looked at me and she said, "I love you, baby." Those were her last words. They weren't, "Get out of here, you make me sick." Why did I hold on to the wrong words? She had said, "Get out of here, you make me sick." She had said that. But she had already cleaned that up. A dying mother cleaning up, making her amends to her son. But the reason I thought about this, why do I hold on to that? Because I hold on to the pain. Because pain is fuel. In the big book, it says that we get fuel for the rocket ship to the next dimension. That's newcomers, step work. That's the fuel to get the rocket to the next dimension. But fuel for the disease is pain, shame, regret, guilt. And I had plenty of that. So the idea that, Pat, you're sharing that your dad's there and your mom's there and your friend's over there, and I've seen my father from beyond the grave. And I thought that this was all strange, and I shared that, and then I was reminded by my sponsor to look in the big book under the 10th step where it says we have entered the realm of the spirit. The only thing that limits the power of God is my lack of willingness to do the work or to avail myself to show up to where I might be able to hear something that makes me realize that something more is possible if I work this program of recovery. In the realm of new stuff, there's this book. It's called the 12-Step Companion Guide that Cocaine Anonymous produced to go along with the big book, not to replace it. But what it talks about, so literally this, half measures avail us nothing. The opposite of half measures is going to any lengths. But in my life, I had so many half measures, and I've done it in my own recovery because, see, there's a thing called surrender, a genuine surrender. Dr. Bob, in the early days, they'd take the person upstairs to get a good surrender out of them. Well, what blocks me from my surrender are things like submission, compliance, where I will do what it takes to get by, but that won't bring me the spiritual fruits. This book talks so beautifully about the difference between surrender, compliance, and submission. So if you watch an MMA fight, they may hold that cat down and he tap out, but that doesn't mean he's defeated. He's just beat for now. And that's what I see happen to so many men that I work with. They get caught up in the cycle and can't get clean again because they can't surrender at depth. I got to get to the heart of whatever it is, and I don't even know what's broken inside me. So what do I do to get to what's broken inside me if I don't know? Is I find a teacher, I find a guide, and I open myself up to the healing collective wisdom of our beautiful fellowship. And through that, I start to heal. And through that, I can tell you today, I have the best relationship I've ever had with my mother, with my father, and I lost a son, and even with my son. Even though I never got to make it right with them in the living years. When I watched my friends eulogize their mother recently, I saw one of the most beautiful things I ever saw that I never got to experience, but I got to experience it through them. And what I know for sure is it's a lot better to do it in the living years, isn't it, Ralph? Reggie, isn't it better to do it in the living years? So if there's anybody who's pissing you off, or any grudge you're holding, or any pain that keeps pulling you back into that past, I would suggest that you get with somebody. Find a way to forgive. Find a way to let that shit go. Because in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says one time, half measures availed us nothing. But it says 4 times it will go to any lengths. Thank you for being here with us today as we have examined that topic as thoroughly as I think that we're capable of doing. And so grateful to be here with all of you. And on behalf of me and Pat, we send you our love and our blessings. Thank you.